I walked over into the neighbor's yard, and I was like, is that two bodies laying on the ground? Because they had him on the ground, and he was, right there beside the guy I guess he had shot.
It's 11:34 p.m., November 23, 2017, in Chesterfield County, Virginia. Officer Frasier's body cam activates as he pulls up to a quiet home on Dogwood Ridge Court. A man sits calmly on the front steps, hands visible, no sign of panic. The man identifies himself as Christopher Gaddis, age 59. He tells the responding officer he just defended himself from intruders, 3 of them, all inside his home. But the details don't add up. The 911 dispatch log shows the call was placed at 11:32 p.m., while Gaddis insists the confrontation ended at 11:28. The timeline doesn't fit, and the evidence inside will prove it can't. What investigators would uncover next would turn a quiet holiday evening into one of the most chilling family murders Virginia has ever seen. The Gaddis home on Dogwood Ridge Court looked ready for a Norman Rockwell painting that Thanksgiving evening. Security camera footage from 6 p.m. shows Janet Gaddis, 58, arranging autumn centerpieces while her husband Christopher polished wine glasses in the kitchen. Their preparation had started early. Grocery receipts from that morning listed turkey, cranberry sauce, and green beans, matching exactly what investigators would later catalog in their refrigerator. At 6:15 p.m., their daughter Candace, 30, arrived with her boyfriend Andrew, 36. The front door camera captured them carrying a covered dish and a bottle of wine. Candace wore the burgundy sweater her mother had given her the previous Christmas, a detail her co-workers would later confirm from office party photos. Andrew, a construction supervisor, still had drywall dust on his work boots, suggesting he'd come straight from a job site. Church attendance logs from Beulah Baptist show the Gaddis family signed in together the previous Sunday, sitting in their usual third pew. Janet's co-worker, Michelle Turner, would later provide a sworn affidavit stating Janet seemed unusually quiet during their Wednesday lunch, mentioning only that Christopher's been stressed about money. But the security footage tells a different story about this evening. At 8:47 p.m., Candace steps out onto the porch alone, her body language tense. She lights a cigarette, something her mother's journal, discovered later, notes she only did when upset. The camera catches her wiping her eyes before crushing the cigarette after just 3 drags. Text logs recovered from Candace's phone paint an increasingly troubling picture. At 9:58 p.m., she messages her cousin saying, "Dad's drinking again. Getting weird." And at 10:12 p.m. she texted, "Mom's trying to keep peace, but I'm done." The final text, sent at 10:59 p.m., "Might leave early. Can't do this anymore." Yet Christopher would later claim he hadn't seen Candace all evening. The hot tub camera, installed after a break-in the previous year, captured movement at 9:15 p.m. Christopher appears in frame, checking the temperature. This contradicts his later statement that he never left the kitchen between 8 and 11 p.m. More disturbing, neighbor Bill Morrison's doorbell camera, synchronized to atomic time, recorded shouting from the Gaddis home at 10:12 p.m. The audio is muffled, but a female voice clearly says, "Stop it, just stop." Court records from Chesterfield County reveal Christopher's 2015 misdemeanor assault conviction, a bar fight where he broke another man's orbital bone. The victim's statement described Christopher as going from calm to violent in seconds. This pattern would become horrifyingly relevant. At 11:01 p.m., Janet's phone shows a battery warning at 2%, yet somehow a text appears from her phone at 11:05 p.m. to her sister in Richmond. "Everything's fine. Happy Thanksgiving." Digital forensics would later prove this message was composed while the phone was plugged into a charger in the master bedroom, a room Janet's Fitbit showed she hadn't entered since 7 p.m. The 911 dispatch log from November 23rd creates an immediate problem for investigators. The call comes in at 11:32 p.m. Male caller reports home invasion, claims self-defense 3 subjects down. Officer Frasier's unit receives the dispatch at 11:33 p.m. His arrival time, 11:34 p.m. Unusually fast, even for the quiet Thanksgiving night. Frasier's body cam footage shows Christopher sitting on the porch steps, hands visible, no weapon. "They came at me," he says calmly. "I had no choice." The officer asks where the weapon is. Christopher responds, "Inside, I think." Everything happened so fast. But the CAD log contains a crucial detail. Multiple calls were received. The first, at 11:29 p.m., came from inside the residence, a woman's voice saying only "help" before the line disconnected. The second call, Christopher's, came 3 minutes later from the same landline. Dispatch supervisor Rachel Webb would later testify that the 2 calls had distinctly different audio qualities. The first muffled and frantic, the second clear and controlled. Officer Frasier enters the home at 11:36 p.m. His body cam captures the scene. Andrew's body in the living room, Janet in the hallway, Candace near the kitchen entrance. The Taurus .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol lies on the coffee table, magazine empty. Christopher claims he grabbed it from a drawer when the intruders attacked. Gunshot residue tests conducted at 11:51 p.m. reveal particles on Christopher's hands and shirt. But the pattern tells a specific story. The concentration and distribution indicate he fired from multiple positions, not the single defensive position he described. Christopher's claim that he remained outside after calling police crumbles when Officer Frasier's partner, Officer Daniels, checks the back door at 11:38 p.m. Fresh footprints in the knocked-over flour container lead from the kitchen to the back porch. The flour, spilled when Janet fell, creates a timeline. Christopher walked through it after the shooting. On top of that, phone records show Candace's last outgoing text at 10:59 p.m., "might leave early." But her phone's GPS remained active, pinging from inside the house until 11:28 p.m., the exact minute Christopher claims the confrontation began. Andrew's phone tells another story. At 11:15 p.m., he receives a work text about Friday's job site. The message remains unread. His phone's accelerometer data shows sudden movement at 11:23 p.m., consistent with a physical struggle, then no motion after 11:26 p.m. Christopher claimed Andrew was the primary aggressor, yet Andrew's phone was found in his pocket, screen uncracked, unlikely if he'd initiated violence. Christopher's own phone reveals calculated behavior. At 10:45 p.m., he Googled Castle Doctrine, Virginia. At 10:52 p.m., self-defense against multiple attackers. At 11:08 p.m., how long before police arrive? These searches occurred while his family watched football in the living room, according to the smart TV's viewing history. Most damning is what investigators found in Christopher's deleted texts. Using forensic recovery software, Detective Chen discovered messages Christopher sent to his brother in Texas at 11:21 p.m., 7 minutes before he claims the attack occurred. "Having issues here. May need lawyer info you mentioned." His brother's response at 11:24 p.m. went unread. "Everything okay?" Janet's iPad, synced to her phone, shows she was reading a recipe blog at 11 p.m. Her last interaction, bookmarking a Black Friday sale page at 11:03 p.m. The iPad's front-facing camera, triggered by facial recognition, captured her final image. Sitting alone on the couch, glasses on, no sign of distress. Location services from all 4 phones create an impossible scenario. Christopher claims everyone was in different rooms when violence erupted. But GPS and Wi-Fi triangulation data places all 4 people within 15 feet of each other in the living room at 11:23 p.m. The scattered attack he described required teleportation. The crime scene reconstruction conducted by the Virginia State Police Forensic Unit destroys Christopher's self-defense narrative. The Taurus .45 caliber semi-automatic, registered to Christopher since 2012, contained 9 spent casings. Trajectory analysis reveals a specific sequence that contradicts every aspect of his statement. Andrews sustained 3 gunshot wounds: left shoulder, chest, and head. The angle of entry indicates he was shot while seated, then falling, then on the ground. Forensic analyst Dr. Marcus Webb testified, "The victim was incapacitated by the first shot. The final shot was delivered execution style from above. No defensive wounds appeared on Andrews' hands or arms. Janet's autopsy reveals 2 gunshot wounds, one to the abdomen, one to the chest. The abdominal wound showed close-range discharge, less than 3 feet. Powder burns on her hands suggest she raised them defensively. Her position in the hallway, 12 feet from the living room, indicates she was fleeing when shot. Blood spatter analysis confirms she fell forward, then was turned over, explaining the blood transfer on Christopher's shoes. Candace suffered 3 gunshot wounds, all to her back. She was found face down near the kitchen entrance, her phone beneath her. The trajectory analysis places the shooter at least 8 feet behind her." Dr. Webb's report states, "Victim was attempting to exit through kitchen when shot. No evidence of confrontation." The firearm itself provides crucial evidence. Christopher claimed he grabbed it from a locked drawer during the attack, but the drawer's lock showed no signs of forced entry or hurried opening. More importantly, the gun safe's electronic log recorded it being opened at 10:42 p.m., 46 minutes before the supposed attack. The ammunition used was hollow point, specifically designed for maximum damage, not the full metal jacket rounds Christopher claimed he always kept loaded. Shell casing distribution maps the shooter's movement. The pattern shows methodical positioning, not the chaotic scramble of self-defense. One casing landed in a potted plant 6 feet above ground level. Impossible unless the shooter was standing on the couch, firing downward. The Chesterfield community's shock deepened as more details emerged about the Gaddis family dynamics. Reverend James Patterson from Beulah Baptist Church provided a sworn statement describing an incident from October. Christopher confronted a youth group leader about a perceived slight against Janet. His reaction was completely disproportionate, shouting, making threats. We had to escort him out. Co-workers at Dominion Energy, where Christopher worked as a systems analyst, painted a picture of escalating instability. Supervisor Tom Richards filed an HR report 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, noting, "Christopher made concerning statements about protecting what's his and not letting anyone disrespect him." Recommended EAP counseling. Janet's sister, Linda Morrison, revealed years of hidden turmoil in her deposition. "Janet called me crying at least once a month. Christopher would get paranoid, accuse her of affairs, of stealing money. She stayed because she believed in marriage vows." Text messages between the sisters, subpoenaed during investigation, show Janet writing on November 1st, "He's getting worse. Found him sitting in the dark with his gun last night." Neighbors provided crucial context about escalating tensions. Sarah and Bill Morrison, who lived 2 houses down, kept detailed notes after Christopher threatened them over a property line dispute in September. Their documentation, provided to police, included dates and times of aggressive encounters, photos of Christopher on their property at night, and recordings from their security system. Candace's best friend, Maria Santos, testified that Candace had been planning to confront her father about missing money from her grandmother's estate. Text messages from November 22nd show Candace writing, "Finally have proof Dad took Grandma's money. Showing Mom tomorrow. This confrontation would have happened at Thanksgiving dinner." Andrew's family revealed he'd been uncomfortable visiting the Gaddis home. His brother Michael stated, "Andrew said Christopher made weird comments about Candace dating a construction worker instead of a professional. Called him beneath the family. Andrew only went to support Candace." The investigation's timeline revealed multiple impossibilities that shattered Christopher's story. Security footage from an ATM 700 feet away captured Christopher's car at 11:19 p.m., 9 minutes before he claimed the home invasion began. Transaction records show he withdrew $300. When questioned, he said he'd gotten cash earlier that day, but the receipt in his wallet proved otherwise. Phone tower data created another paradox. At 11:28 p.m., the moment Christopher claimed violence erupted, his phone pinged a tower that only provided coverage to the master bedroom and bathroom. Physical evidence placed all victims in the living room and kitchen area. For Christopher to be where he claimed during the attack, he would have needed to be in two places simultaneously. The home's smart thermostat, a detail overlooked initially, recorded motion patterns throughout the evening. Its log showed movement in the master bedroom at 11:26 p.m., the hallway at 11:27 p.m., and the living room at 11:28 p.m., a path consistent with someone retrieving a weapon and moving toward victims, not fleeing from attackers. Detective Chen discovered that Christopher had called his insurance company at 10:35 p.m., inquiring about his life insurance policies on Janet. The representative noted he specifically asked about accidental death versus homicide payouts. This call occurred while Janet was serving dessert, according to photos Candace had posted to Instagram at 10:32 p.m. Most damning was the deleted security footage. Christopher claimed their system malfunctioned that night, but digital forensics revealed selective deletion. Footage from 11:15 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. had been removed at 11:43 p.m. after police arrived. The deletion required a password only Christopher knew. Cloud backup recovery would later restore this crucial evidence, showing Christopher moving through the house with his weapon before any confrontation. At 1:15 a.m. on November 24th, Detective Chen made the arrest decision. Christopher Gaddis was read his Miranda rights in his living room, still surrounded by Thanksgiving decorations and crime scene tape. His response, captured on body cam, "I want my lawyer. You're making a mistake." During transport, Christopher made unprompted statements despite invoking his rights. Officer Frasier's dashcam audio captured him saying, "They pushed me too far. Always wanting money, always complaining. A man has limits." These pre-Miranda statements would prove admissible as spontaneous utterances. At 3 a.m., after his attorney arrived, Christopher agreed to a limited statement. The confession, recorded in interview room 3, began with tears, the first emotion he'd shown. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," he said. "Janet was going to leave me. Candace found out about the money. They ganged up on me." The confession aligned with forensic evidence in ways his original story never had. He admitted to getting the gun early, just in case things got heated. He confirmed shooting Andrew first because he was biggest, then Janet as she ran, then Candace as she tried to escape. The sequence matched the blood spatter analysis perfectly. When Detective Chen asked about the Google searches, Christopher's mask finally slipped entirely. "I'm not stupid. I knew what it would look like. But they were going to destroy everything I built. Take my house, my money, my reputation. I earned all of it." The deleted security footage, recovered from cloud storage, sealed his fate. It showed Christopher loading his weapon at 11:15 p.m., checking window locks at 11:20 p.m., and positioning himself strategically at 11:25 p.m. The surprise attack was actually a carefully planned ambush. On July 16, 2018, Christopher Gaddis stood before Judge Patricia Williams in Chesterfield County Circuit Court. Rather than risk trial, he had accepted a plea agreement for 3 counts of first-degree murder. The courtroom was packed. Janet's church congregation on one side, Candace's co-workers on the other, Andrew's construction crew standing in the back. Judge Williams reviewed the evidence before sentencing. This was not a moment of passion or fear. This was calculated elimination of family members who threatened your control. She imposed 3 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole, effectively 300 years. Christopher's final statement shocked even hardened court observers. "I accept responsibility, but they share blame for pushing me." Janet's sister Linda walked out. The judge added, "Mr. Gaddis, you still don't comprehend the monstrosity of your actions." Virginia Department of Corrections records show Christopher entered Greensville Correctional Center on July 20th. Within 90 days, no appeals were filed, making the conviction final. Prison records indicate he was placed in protective custody after threats from other inmates who learned he had killed his family on Thanksgiving. The Dogwood Ridge community struggled to process the tragedy. The Gaddis home stood empty for 18 months before being demolished. Where it once stood, neighbors planted a memorial garden with 3 oak trees, one for each victim. Beulah Baptist Church established the Janet Gaddis Memorial Fund, supporting domestic violence awareness. In the first year, it raised $37,000 for local shelters. Reverend Patterson instituted mandatory recognition training for church leadership. We saw warning signs but didn't know how to respond. Never again. Andrews Construction Company created an annual scholarship for trade students, honoring his mentorship of young workers. His brother Michael spoke at the first award ceremony. Andrew believed in building things that last. This scholarship ensures his legacy continues building. Candace's employer, Dominion Energy, implemented enhanced employee assistance programs focusing on family violence prevention. Her desk remains decorated with her photos, a reminder of a life cut short. The case led Chesterfield County to revise its domestic violence response protocols. Detective Chen now trains officers nationwide on recognizing escalation patterns in family violence cases. The Gaddis case became a teaching model at the FBI Academy, demonstrating how digital forensics can expose elaborate deceptions. As of the time this video was made, Christopher Gaddis remains in prison, having exhausted all appeals. The Thanksgiving table at Beulah Baptist Church always has 3 empty place settings, a quiet reminder that domestic violence can hide behind any door, even those decorated for holidays. Sadly, cases where a father takes the lives of his own family have been rising in recent years, and the next case we're about to talk about is no different. What makes this one stand out is how many red flags were there and how many of them were ignored.
Almost like it's surreal, like it's something you'd see on TV, and that it couldn't be someone in our company, someone that we knew.
She was very, very professional, bright, shining smile, very energetic.
They say once a cheater, always a cheater. But what about a killer? Can someone who's taken a life do it again? Sadly, in this case, the answer is yes. Gregory Green, a man from Michigan, murdered his wife and unborn child in 1991 in a brutal attack. He stabbed her in the face and chest, then calmly dialed 911 to confess. After serving nearly 16 years, he walked free, and with the help of his loved ones, including a pastor who would later regret fighting for his release because Green ended up marrying the pastor's daughter. But what came next was even more devastating. Green would go on to assault his new wife and murder his 2 children from a previous relationship, as well as their 2 daughters together. How could a man responsible for such horror be given a second chance, only to destroy more lives? What went wrong? This is a case you won't forget, and it often flies under the radar. It's not widely known, and we're not romanticizing it here. We just want to raise awareness about the red flags that everyone should be on the lookout for. So let's dive in and uncover the true story. Now to start with, let's get to know the man himself. While there isn't a ton of information about Gregory Green's early life, we do know he was born in 1966. He came from what appeared to be a loving family, with a caring mother and a devoted father. He even had a sister, and it seems the whole family was actively involved in their church community. Unfortunately, details about his childhood remain a mystery. There's little information about whether he faced bullying or struggled with any substance abuse. It's a frustrating gap in the story, especially since understanding his background could shed light on his later actions. And as we move forward, we find Gregory in his late 20s when he crossed paths with Tanya, who would eventually become his wife, Tanya Green. She already had 2 kids from a previous relationship, and soon she discovered she was pregnant with Gregory's child in 1990. Unfortunately, not much is known about the dynamics of their relationship, whether it was filled with love or overshadowed by tension. However, things took a dark turn in July 1991. Tanya had confided in her best friend, someone she had known since middle school, expressing her concerns about Gregory. She revealed that he had been acting strangely and seemed to be involved with substances. Tanya made it clear that she was planning to leave him, saying, "He's getting violent and irritable. I need to get out of here." And she had a plan: attend church that Sunday morning, pack a bag afterwards, and finally break free from the troubled relationship. But tragically, that day never came. At 1:30 a.m. on that fateful Sunday, Gregory picked up the phone and dialed 911. "I just killed my pregnant wife," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. "I stabbed her and she's dead. She's lying in the kitchen." While the dispatcher fired off questions, Gregory chose to sit on the porch and wait for the police to arrive. When the officers got there, they wasted no time in arresting him. Inside the house, they stumbled upon a horrific scene. Tanya's lifeless body sprawled on the kitchen floor. She had been brutally stabbed 10 times with a steak knife in the face and chest, and tragically, her unborn child was lost as well. By the way, I post true crime and new cases here every day, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot. Now, according to public records and reports, Tanya had 2 children, but only one was home during the horrific incident. The other child managed to hide in the closet, likely listening in terror as their mother's life was being taken. After the brutal act, Gregory was arrested and brought to trial, facing charges of second-degree murder. During the proceedings, he began telling his public defender that he was mentally ill and wanted to plead insanity. However, after a mental evaluation, the court decided against the insanity plea. In the end, Gregory was sentenced to 15 to 20 years in prison, a sentence that many felt was shockingly lenient for taking the lives of his pregnant wife and unborn child. Throughout this ordeal, Gregory's family stood firm behind him. This is where things get a bit murky because we don't know exactly what Gregory told his family about why he committed such a horrific act. Surely he must have said something to them. Maybe he claimed he blacked out or that he lost control. However, the specifics remain elusive. What we do know is that despite the gravity of his actions, he received a sentence of only 15 to 20 years. Starting in 2004, Gregory began seeking parole, but he was denied 4 times. The parole board cited his lack of remorse and inability to comprehend the severity of his crime. At one point, he was still placing blame on Tanya, claiming she was partly responsible for what happened. The board ultimately deemed him a danger to society, which is their primary focus when considering someone for release. During all of this, Gregory's family was advocating hard for him. His parents, his pastor, and his sister were all rallying behind him. They began writing letters in support of his parole. In 2006, Gregory's mother sent a letter to the parole board expressing her belief that he was genuinely sorry for what he did and had gained insight into his behaviors during his time in prison. While it's clear that a mother's love is powerful, it raises eyebrows to think it took 15 years for Gregory to have his insight. His sister also reached out to the parole board, stating that over the years, Gregory had become closer to the Lord and read the Bible daily. She believed this spiritual growth was helping him through his challenging time. Fred Harris, the pastor we mentioned earlier, was more than just a man of the cloth. He was also a civil rights activist deeply involved in prison ministry. He knew Gregory and his family well, and he felt a strong calling to help Gregory turn his life around. Fred passionately fought for Gregory's release, believing that with support and faith, he could become a testament to the power of redemption. He even wrote numerous letters to the judge advocating for Gregory's second chance. According to the pastor, Gregory and him shared a friendship that extended beyond mere acquaintanceship before his life spiraled into chaos. Fred wrote to the Michigan Parole Board in August of 2005, highlighting Gregory's connection to their church community. In his heartfelt letter, Fred reflected on Gregory's past struggles, stating, "He has paid for his unfortunate lack of self-control and the damage he has caused as much as possible and is sorry." Fred expressed hope that if Gregory were released, he would be welcomed back into the church and that the community would support him as he adjusted to life outside of prison. This support network was essential for Gregory, as it was clear that everyone was rooting for him to get a second chance. During his time in prison, Gregory made the most of his situation. He took various educational courses and engaged in mental health programs, showing a commitment to bettering himself. By 2008, he was ready for his 5th appearance before the parole board, a pivotal moment that would determine his future. As Gregory faced the board, 3 members sat before him, armed with letters of support and records of his behavior during his incarceration. It was a tense moment, but all indications pointed to a favorable outcome. The board reviewed Gregory's time in prison and found that he had maintained a clean record since his altercation over the television back in 2002. The staff and correction officers spoke highly of him, noting his respectful demeanor and ability to get along with others. When asked about his plans for re-entry into society, Gregory's parents confidently assured the board that he would return home and that he already had a job lined up, along with a supportive church community eager to help him reintegrate. With 2 of the 3 parole board members voting in favor of his release, the decision was sealed. In 2008, Gregory was released from prison, marking the start of a new chapter in his life. At first, things seemed to be looking up for Gregory. He secured a job and moved back in with his family. He attended church regularly and appeared to be turning his life around. Shockingly, just 2 years later, he completed his parole, an outcome that surprised many given the nature of his past. But life had another twist in store for Gregory. As he was trying to adjust back to life outside of prison, he unexpectedly grew close to Faith Green, the pastor's daughter. Their relationship turned into a sweet love story that almost felt like a fairy tale. A man with a troubled past finding comfort in the arms of a woman from such a different background. It was such a big change for Gregory, and it caught the attention of everyone around them, including Faith. But the thing is, she never really understood why he had been in prison at that time. Whenever she tried to ask him about it, he would change the subject or just stay quiet. This made her uneasy, and she couldn't help but wonder what secrets he was keeping. Now, Faith and Gregory had been living together as a blended family since their marriage on December 18, 2010. At first, everything seemed perfect. They were a happy family, attending church together and enjoying life with Faith's 2 teenage children, Chadney and Kara, and their 2 little girls, Coy and Kaylee. However, as time went on, Faith began to notice some troubling changes in Gregory. By 2013, he started showing signs of anger and aggression. There was one frightening incident where he kicked the couch while the baby was lying on it, which terrified Faith. He threatened her, saying she better leave or she would regret it. Despite her fear, she felt trapped, especially with her children in the house. Faith tried to seek help by applying for a protective order, but it was denied. She didn't mention Gregory's dark past, which was a huge mistake. Eventually, she found herself back with him, thinking things would improve, but the situation only grew more dangerous. Fast forward to August of 2016, and Faith decided to file for divorce again, feeling she had to escape the toxic situation. This divorce really made him angry, and it might have triggered something in him. Just a month later, on September 22nd, everything changed. Gregory lured Faith down to the basement. He zip-tied her hands and feet, then shot her in the foot so she couldn't move. It was a brutal attack. He went even further, slashing her face and body with a box cutter, leaving her in a state of panic and pain. But the horror didn't stop there. Gregory had rigged the family car to fill with exhaust fumes, trapping their 2 youngest daughters, Coy and Kaylee, inside. They died from carbon monoxide poisoning, a tragic loss that no family should ever endure. In a chilling act, Gregory then took Faith's 2 teenage children down to the basement, where their mother lay helpless. He shot both Chadney and Kara execution style right in front of Faith. Can you imagine being a mother and having to witness such unimaginable horror? It's a heartbreaking tragedy. After committing these horrific acts, Gregory called 911, calmly confessing, "Hey, I just killed my family." He sat on the porch and waited for the police again. When the cops showed up, they rushed right in and put Gregory in handcuffs. He didn't say much, but what they found was horrifying. The officers described it as one of the most gruesome sights they'd ever encountered. They discovered the body of the 2 little girls in the car, Coy and Kaylee, who had tragically died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Then they headed down to the basement where they found Chadney and Kara, the 2 teenagers brutally killed. Faith was the only one who survived, and they quickly rushed her to the hospital, where she spent a long time in intensive care. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that this man killed his family not once, but twice. In court, things took a bizarre turn. When it was his turn to speak, he pleaded guilty. According to his public defender, he just wanted to get it over with. The pastor who once advocated for him to get out of prison, the one who married him, ended up facing the shocking reality of losing his 4 grandkids to a man he thought had changed. According to Faith, she had lost her memory of that fateful night, but it was reported that Gregory killed and shot her 2 children right in front of her. The horror of that moment was imprinted on the minds of those who heard the chilling details. Meanwhile, their younger sisters, Kaylee Green and Coy, met a similar tragic fate. The police reported that the girls were found dead in their beds, victims of asphyxiation caused by carbon monoxide fumes from a car parked outside their home. In a horrific act, their father, Gregory Green, had manipulated the tailpipe of the vehicle, directing the lethal exhaust fumes into the car, ultimately taking the lives of his own children. After committing this unspeakable act, he placed the young girls back in their beds on the ground floor of the house, as if trying to mask the horror he had just inflicted. The car where Kaylee and Coy were asphyxiated had a hose connected to the exhaust, snaking its way into the vehicle, creating a deadly trap that the unsuspecting children never had a chance to escape. When police arrived, they administered CPR, desperately trying to revive the girls before rushing them to the hospital. Tragically, their efforts were in vain. The children did not survive. Faith showed up at some of the court proceedings in a wheelchair, struggling to move after being shot in the foot.
I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied with the outcome. There's no punishment that fits the crime. Not even torture and death would be justice. Your justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity, for murdering 4 innocent children, all because you're insecure as a man. Plus the other 2 lives you took. You are a con artist, you are a monster, you are a devil in disguise. You are now forever exposed.
It's hard to think that the children were brought into this mess, and they were only kids. Chadney was just 19 years old, and Kara was 17. Meanwhile, his biological daughters, Coy and Kaylee, were only 5 and 4. Chadney Allen Sr., the father of the 2 teens, was heartbroken when he heard the news. He couldn't shake the feeling that his ex-wife might have known about Gregory's dark past, especially since he hadn't been aware of it himself.
I didn't know any of that, and I'm surprised. I'm so shocked. I'm wondering, did she know about it? You know, how could she not know about it and be involved with someone like that? She had 2 kids with the guy.
During the funeral held for the 4 children, a pastor tried to comfort Chadney, reassuring him that none of this was his fault. Despite that, he was overwhelmed with guilt, feeling as though he should have stepped in sooner to protect his kids.
You did nothing wrong! Look at me! You did nothing wrong! Nothing wrong! Nothing wrong! Nothing wrong!
In a statement from the Waynes County Prosecutor's Office, it was announced that Gregory Green was sentenced to a staggering 45 to 100 years in prison. On top of that, he received an extra 2 years for a felony firearm charge. This meant that he will first serve the 2-year sentence for the firearm offense. After that, he faces a lengthy 45-year term for the other crimes. If he serves his full sentence, he won't be eligible for parole until he is 97 years old. This sentence serves as a reminder that while justice cannot bring back the precious lives he took, it seeks to hold him accountable for his horrific actions.
Therefore, sir, as to the charge of murder in the 2nd degree regarding Kaylee Green, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty, sir.
As to the charge of murder in the 2nd degree as to Coy Green, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty, sir.
As to the charge of murder in the 2nd degree as to Kara Allen, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
As to murder in the 2nd degree as to Chadri Allen, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
As to the charge of torture in count 5, sir, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
As to the charge of assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than a crime or murder as to Faith Green, and sir, how do you wish to plead to that?
Guilty.
It's my understanding that the defendant is prepared to accept the settlement offer of the people today, whereby he will tender a plea of guilty to the following charges. Count 1, murder in the 2nd degree of Kaylee Green. Count 2, murder in the second degree of Coy Green. Count 3, murder in the second degree of Kara Allen. Count 4, murder in the second degree of Chadney Allen. Count 5, torture. Count 6, assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. Count 10, felony firearm.
Now, 6 years after that tragic night, Faith Green made the courageous decision to share her story by writing a book about her harrowing experience. Her book, titled The Monster That Killed His Family Twice, The Faith Green Story, was made available on Amazon in 2022. This gripping 118-page book takes readers through the horrific night where Gregory murdered her 4 children. It sheds light on an unimaginable pain Faith endured and offers a glimpse into the chaos of that fateful evening. In addition to her book, Gregory was also featured in the ID channel docuseries Evil Lives Here, which aired in July of that same year. The episode, titled A Special Place in Hell, can be streamed on Discovery+. Interestingly, Faith expresses her hope that by sharing her experiences, she can help other women who find themselves trapped in abusive and dangerous relationships. However, not everyone fully supported Faith Green after the tragedy. While victim blaming is never justified, some people online and even in prison harshly criticized her for her choices.
Would you say that there were red flags that you ignored, and if so, what were some of those?
I can say the red flags were, mood swings, the arguments for no reason, or, basically it was like being married but single. He just paid the bills, but he didn't want to be interactive, and then it got to the point where it was like, he didn't want the older two there, really.
Many pointed out that she knew Gregory Green was a convicted killer, yet she still chose to marry him. Although she initially claimed she wasn't fully aware of the extent of his crime, that didn't stop the wave of judgment from those who believed she ignored clear warning signs. The harsh reality is that Gregory's violent past should have raised more red flags. He had been convicted of killing his previous wife and their unborn child, an act so horrifying that it should have been a warning of what he was capable of. In the eyes of critics, that alone should have been enough for Faith to walk away before the relationship escalated. But relationships, especially those involving manipulative partners, are rarely so simple. Gregory, like many abusers, likely masked his true nature, presenting himself as someone who had changed. Unfortunately, the danger signs were missed and tragedy struck when he took the lives of their 4 children and attempted to kill Faith as well. The lesson people took from this tragic story is that past actions, particularly violent ones, can be an indication of future behavior. If someone has harmed others in the past, it's crucial not to ignore it. For many, Gregory's first murder should have been the undeniable warning, and ignoring it came at an unimaginable cost. This serves as a reminder for those to take any sign of violence seriously, no matter how much someone claims to have changed. But if you were the mother of 2, would you take the chance to marry a convicted killer in the first place? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section. If you like the way we create these videos and want to help bring more cases like this to light, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thank you once again for watching.